Hey everybody! Happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends. We're out for a hike today, enjoying this beautiful weekend and all this gorgeous weather, and I'm just looking for a little inspiration. I wonder what I might find. Hey everybody! If you don't play Minecraft, chances are you know somebody or some buddies that do. We're a Minecraft house, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the game, it's sort of like a digital Lego. You go in, you start from scratch, and you can build anything. And I play, my husband plays, and my sister-in-law plays, and we have friends who play, and we have built everything from 18-hole golf course resorts to huge lake houses to ice castles. We've done everything, and it is just so much fun. Anyway, if you play, you will also know that there are occasionally enemies in the game, and I am talking specifically today about the creeper. This little guy sneaks up on you, explodes, and blows up pretty much all the hard work you just did. Really, really annoying, but extremely notorious, and anybody who plays this game will be very familiar with the creeper. Oh, jeez! Shut up! I hate it when they do that! That's a good thing I made two. Where was I? The creeper. This would make a great gift for anybody who plays this game. And that's why I thought I'd bring out the creeper pattern now, since we're coming up on the Christmas season. This is a really easy, simple to make little toy. It's made modularly in pieces, and I figured that it would just be a whole lot of fun to put together, and you could really surprise somebody who loves to play this game, because they can pretty much put it anywhere. They can put it on a shelf, they can put it on their bed, play with it. It's a little stuffed toy. Anyway, that's what we're going to make today. So I will put him back here and hope that he doesn't blow up my pretty little shelving unit. And I'm going to head over to the craft table and make another one. Come on. Oh, come on! For the Minecraft creeper, I am using a worsted weight acrylic yarn. In particular, I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in this nice bright green. And you're not going to need the whole skein, but I typically like to start projects with a fresh skein, unless I know that it's not going to take that much. You could probably get several creepers out of one Super Saver ball of yarn. We're going to make it in pieces, so we're going to start with the head pieces, and then we're going to do the body pieces, and then we're going to do the feet pieces. And you're going to have to make multiples of the same thing, and I will explain that as we go. You're going to need a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and a decent crochet hook. For this project, I'm using my standard 4.25 millimeter hook, or a G/6, depending on which sizing you're following. You can use one size up, one size down, whatever you find is comfortable with this sized yarn, but this is the size that I used, and for me, my creeper worked out to be almost a foot tall when he stands up. So that's how big that yarn and that hook are going to wind up being. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with the head pieces. We're going to make 6 of the exact same thing. And all of this is done using single crochet and not much else. This is a pretty straightforward pattern. So we're going to start with a slip knot. So you wrap your yarn, make a loop, and you can go through the loop with your hook, grab your yarn, and then just pull your 2 ends, and there's your slip knot. Now, for the first piece, which you're going to make 6 of for the head, you're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There you go. So you've got a length of 9. 9 because the first of your, I should say, I guess your last, the first chain from the hook is your turning chain. So you're really only going to have a piece of fabric that winds up being 8 stitches across, because you always have to have one chain at the end of each row for turning, and that basically allows you to bring your work up to the right height of your working stitch. So in a single crochet's case, that would be a single chain. So we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. You insert your hook, wrap your yarn, pull up a loop, single crochet, start with 2 loops on your hook, wrap your yarn, pull it through both. That's a single crochet, and if you need any extra help with that, please check out my single crochet tutorial and I will link it down below. You're going to single crochet in each chain all the way back across your foundation row so that you have a finished row of 8 stitches. And the stitch count for this piece and each of the 6 head pieces that you make will always be 8 stitches wide. So at the end of row 1, if you're not sure, always go back and count your stitches to make sure you have 8. Chain 1, because when you're doing back and forth work, you need a turning chain at the end of each row to bring your work up to the right height. So you chain 1, flip your work, and you're going to single crochet into that first stitch. So you always ignore the turning chain. You go into the first stitch and you single crochet, and you're going to single crochet back across all 8. You are going to make 6 pieces exactly like this that begin with a chain 9, and you single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and in each of the rest of the 8 chain 1 stitch at the end of every row for a turning chain, single crochet back across all 8 stitches, and each of these pieces is going to be 8 rows high. So we've completed row 1, row 2. You're going to chain 1 for your turning chain, flip your work, and single crochet back across all 8 stitches. You're going to do that for a total of 8 rows. So it's 8 stitches by 8 rows, and it should be a pretty great approximation of an exact square. If you're a little bit out, don't worry. If you're a lot out, then you can add a few more rows to make it square, or you can take it out if you feel that your gauge is really off, and sort of fiddle around with your foundation stitches. But it's probably easier to stick with the foundation of chain 9 and 8 single crochets in each row, and just add or subtract more rows to make sure you get something that looks square. But if you're using this size yarn with this size hook, then you should have an 8 stitch by 8 row piece of fabric that works out to almost exactly a square. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows now. I'm going to let you guys continue on to finish up your square, and remember, you want 6 of them. And I'm just nearing the end of my 8th row, so this is going to be the last row of this square. So it's 8 stitches wide by 8 rows high, and as you can see, that is pretty much a perfect square. So now I'm going to snip my yarn, and you really don't need much of a tail, so just snip it. You're going to pull it back through the loop on your hook so that you can tug it tight, and that fastens it off with a knot. And now you're going to make 5 more. So you're going to have a total of 6 of these pieces that are 8 stitches wide by 8 rows tall. So 6 perfect squares, and those will be the head. Now we're going to do the body parts. So the body is a bit different than the head, as you can tell. The head is a great big square. You've got 4 sides, and you've got a top and a bottom, and they're all square because you want a perfect cube to be the head. The body's a bit different. It's tall, it's a rectangle. So you're going to make it as wide as the head. So you're going to chain 9, and you're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook so that you do 8 stitches across. So the body, front and back, are still going to be 8 stitches wide, but we're going to make it longer. So we're going to actually single crochet for 15 rows. So 8 wide by 15 rows for the front and the back pieces, so you're only going to make 2 pieces like that. And the side pieces are going to be chain 5, single crochet 4, so into the second chain and into the next 3, so a total of 4 stitches wide by 15 rows long. And the top pieces, which you can't exactly see right now, have got to be this wide by this depth. So you're going to chain 9 so that you have 8 stitches back, but you're only going to make them 4 rows long so that they equal out the depth of the sides. But don't worry, we're going to do this together. So, same as the headpiece, you're going to start with a slip knot. And here's another way to do it. You don't always have to use your hook, but you can if you like. We're going to, like for the body, or like for the head, we're going to chain 9 to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook because the 9th chain counts as your turning chain. We're going to single crochet across all 8 of the remaining stitches so that our piece ends up being 8 stitches long every single row. At the end of each row, you're going to chain 1 because you need to always have a turning stitch at the end of your row. That's what brings your stitch work up to the same height. So here we are at the end of row 1. Chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet back across those 8. And you're going to do that for 15 rows in total, and you're going to make 2 of those pieces of fabric. So that's 2 pieces for the front and the back of the body, which are a total of 8 stitches wide by 15 rows long. And I'm just finishing the end of my 15th row for my front piece. I'm going to make a back piece that's absolutely identical to this. And just like before, I'm just going to snip my yarn and pull it back through the loop to make a knot. And there, you can see that it is a perfectly same width as the headpiece. And there's the headpiece for comparison. So it's 8 stitches wide, but in order to make it a rectangle, I've made it 15 stitches long. So you're going to go ahead and make 2 of these. So you want 6 of the head pieces and 2 of the front and back pieces for the body. Alright, we're going to make the side pieces now for the body, and that's these little pieces that go in here. And we're going to start with a slip knot. And you're going to chain 5. We're doing 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. Skip the first chain like you do with the other ones and single crochet into the second chain from the hook and in each across. So that'll give you a row of 4 stitches. When you get to the end of row 1, just like every other row, you chain 1 for your turning chain, flip your work, and single crochet back across those 4 stitches. And you are going to do that for 15 rows. So these pieces, the 2 body side pieces, will be 4 stitches wide by 15 rows high. And you want to make 2 of those. And there is the finished side piece. So I fastened off just like I did with the other 2, and you'll see that it is the same height as the body piece, so it's 15 stitches, but it's only half as wide. So the body piece is 8 stitches wide, and the body side piece is only 4 stitches wide. And that is so we get sort of this thinner body thing happening, because the creeper is not as deep as he is wide. So once again, you're going to make a front and a back piece just like this. You're going to make 2 side pieces that are 4 stitches wide by 15 rows deep, and then you're going to make the 2 bottom pieces, or I should say the bottom and the top pieces. To make the top and bottom pieces of the body, which is the part that goes, sort of sits on top of here and sits on the bottom there, because you have to make these enclosed. We're going to create a slip knot, and it's going to be as wide as the body. So we're going to chain 9 to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's our chain of 9. Skip the first stitch, or the first chain, single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and in each chain across, and you will have a first row of 8 stitches wide. At the end of that row, you're going to chain 1, because you want to make sure you bring your work up to the same height as the rest of the stitches you're going to work. So you chain 1, you flip your work, and you work all 8 of those stitches in single crochet, and you're going to do that for a total of 4 rows. And the reason it's only 4 rows tall is because the side of the body is only 4 stitches deep. And remember, we're making a 3-dimensional shape here, so you want to make sure that all of your pieces are going to fit together into a 3-dimensional shape. So go ahead and finish that off. Alright, and there is the top and bottom piece shape that is going to be the top and the bottom for the body. So you want to make sure you make 2 pieces, one for the top, one for the bottom, that's 8 stitches long by 4 rows deep. And go ahead and finish that. Now we're going to work on the feet. So we're going to make 4 of these little elongated cubes. Now what's happened here is that the feet are just a little bit taller than they are wide across the top. So they're not a perfect cube. The head is a perfect cube. The feet are not. They're like little fat rectangles. So you're going to make 8 of the perfect square pieces, because you need 4 for the bottoms and 4 for the tops. So 8 of the following. And this is, start with a slip knot. You're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the first chain from the hook, single crochet into the second, and in each across for a total of 4. These squares are going to be 4 stitches wide by 4 rows deep, and you're going to make 8 of them. Snip your yarn, fasten off. You're going to have 8 of these when you're finished, and they are 4 stitches wide by 4 rows deep. They are for the tops and the bottoms of your creeper feet. Now for the sides of the feet. So you're going to have to make, you need 4 for each foot, and there's 4 feet. So you're going to need to make 16 of these pieces. So you're going to start with a slip knot. You're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's your 5. Skip the first chain from the hook, single crochet into the second, and in each one across. So each of these pieces are going to be 4 stitches wide, and you're going to single crochet for 5 rows. Chain 1 at the end of each row, flip your work, single crochet back across those 4 stitches, and each of these 16 side pieces for all your little feet are going to be 5 rows deep. So 4 stitches wide by 5 rows deep. Okay, once you've got all of your pieces made, so 6 pieces for the head, the front and the back for the body, 2 sides for the body, oops, and the top and the bottom. And then you're going to have these are the sides of the feet. So you're going to need 4 for each foot. So 16 in total, plus a top and a bottom. So once you've got all those pieces together, now it's time to embroider on a face. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of your face squares or one of your head block pieces. It doesn't matter which one, just grab one. And you're going to need, for this part of the tutorial, you're going to need a little scrap bit of black. So it doesn't have to be a whole lot. You're going to cut yourself off a long piece, and you're going to get your yarn needle. And you're going to thread this up. And if it's at all helpful, you can Google the image of a creeper face. Just type in creeper face or Minecraft creeper face into Google, and a whole pile of them will come up. You can pick one. There's a lot of close-ups, and you can just use that as a guide. What you basically want to do is have 2 squares for the eyes, a somewhat shortened rectangular piece for the nose that's attached, and then just 3 kind of straightforward rectangles that create the face, or the mouths. The mouth, I should say. So after you've decided where you're going to start, I'm going to start with the mouth. So I'm going to start with this piece of the mouth here. And the middle, I'm going to identify the middle of my block. I'm going to go to one side and then down a couple pieces, down a couple rows I should say. And I'm going to bring my yarn up from the bottom. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail at the back just so I've got something to knot it off with. And then I'm going to just embroider a straight line, and I'm going to go through the same holes a couple of times just to make that a thicker sort of line, because I want it to be a thicker piece. Then I'm going to come out the opposite end where the other side of the mouth is going to go. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to embroider 2 long lines, and try not to do it too tightly. You don't want you don't want to pull the holes that you're working through open, because you don't want them to sort of show. And then I'm going to go down and do the opposite side of the mouth. And remember, this is like a grid. Each stitch can kind of be considered a pixel. And you're just sort of working in a nice bunch of straight lines. So there's my mouth. Now I'm going to do the nose, which is like a little tiny piece in the middle. It's this little thing here. I think I basically went over like 1 stitch a couple times. And you can work this as close to the row you've already done. And if you're using a somewhat thicker yarn, like I am, then just doing a couple of stitches will be enough. But if you're using a skinnier yarn, you might have to do a few more stitches. And that's fine. There's no rules here. You just want to actually create the look. What you're doing is you're trying to get the look of a creeper, and you're going to do that however you find you can and whatever works best for you. So there's my nose. So far I've done the mouth piece and I've done the middle part, which is the nose. Now I'm going to make the 2 square eyes. So I'm going to bring my needle up at the top right hand corner of the nose piece, and I'm actually going to whip stitch around the 4 corners of a stitch, a whole single crochet stitch, to actually make a square. So I'm going to outline the square first with my yarn. Just like that. See, I've sort of made a square. And then I'm going to just fill it in. So I'm going to put another couple of stitches across each of the side pieces. And then I'm going to kind of break with what my habit has been, and I'm going to try and bring my needle up through the actual yarn of the stitch in the center, and just do a couple of stitches back and forth through that, through actually splitting the yarn. And that's just to basically fill in the center, because I want to create a big scary dark hole that looks like the eye. And then I'm going to go to the other side. So I'm going to go up to the top left hand corner of the nose, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to block out the eye piece, There we go. And once you've got your two eyes on, you're going to knot your pieces at the back. And you don't even have to trim your yarn because this is just going to be on the inside of the head anyway. So you just knot them together, and there you go. There's your face. Ooh, creepy. Next thing we're going to do, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually start sewing all the pieces together. And this is really straightforward, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm just going to give you a couple of really quick tips. What you want to do, and you're going to need your stuffing, so if you want to go grab a bag of stuffing, you can do that now too. What you're going to do is you're going to start with the head, so you grab all of your pieces, and cut yourself a nice long length of the green yarn. Grab your yarn needle and thread that up. And you're going to sew the front, the sides, and the back pieces together first. And unlike some sewing projects where you would sew them right sides together, you actually want to help create a stronger squarish look. And you're going to do that by sewing everything wrong sides together. So with right sides facing out, you're going to insert your hook, or I should say your yarn needle, at the bottom corner of both of your pieces. So you're going to sew them together and just bring enough through that you've got a bit of a tail left. And you can do two things. You can knot it here, and that might be the easiest thing to do. So just knot it up like that. You can weave in that end later. And then you're going to just whip stitch through both pieces all the way up the edge. Don't do it really tightly, but try to keep your stitches together. So try to put one whip stitch at the end of each row. So you should have, if it's 8 rows high, you should have 8 whip stitches up the side of the piece that you're sewing together. And that'll just basically help keep all the stuffing in check. And doing the whip stitches on the outside of the pieces of fabric like this are going to help strengthen the edges and make them that much more, make them stand out much more like corners, so that you actually get sort of a square look going and not so much of a round one, because this is squishy, so you are going to have sort of a tendency for it to be squishy. And there you go, you've got your two pieces together. And then you can just knot off your yarn up here. You're going to sew the side piece, the back and the side pieces on. Then you're going to sew the bottom piece all the way around. And I'm going to let you guys do that. And once you get around to the top piece, I'll show you a little trick for stuffing. Okay, so after you've got the most of the pieces sewn together, so the last thing you're going to do is you're going to sew 3/4 of the way around your last piece. And it doesn't matter which piece it is, it just so happens that mine's the bottom piece. You're going to sew 3 of the 4 edges, then you're going to stuff it. And once you've got enough stuffing in there, you're going to sew that last line shut. Now you're going to go ahead and sew the other body pieces together. You're going to turn everything into cubes. Make sure you stuff them before you finish all of your stitching. And then we're going to come back and we're going to show you how to assemble the whole thing into this creepy guy right here. Okay, now that you've got all of your pieces put together, so you've got your little block head, and you've got your rectangular, skinny rectangular body, and you've got your 4 longish, squarish feet, you're going to sew it all together. And this is really basic. You're going to align your body to be on the middle few rows of the head, because it doesn't sit right under the chin and it doesn't sit right under the back. It sits kind of in the middle because his body's skinnier than his head. And so we're going to do that first. You're going to pick a spot, kind of eyeball it, go, yep, that's right. grab your yarn needle. You're going to thread it up with some of the same colored yarn you've been using. And in this case, it's bright green for me. Get the feet out of the way. Come on, guys. Oof, 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 oof. And you're going to just hold it in place if you can. If you can't, well then, just eyeball it. I'm going to start at the side. I'm going to put my needle through a couple of stitches underneath the head. I'm going to leave a little bit of tail out because I'm going to knot it together when I get around back. And I'm just going to sew first through a few stitches in the head, like this. Keep that little tail out of the way. And then through a couple stitches across the top edge of the body. And it'll tighten up as you go. You can just kind of keep it aligned. You don't want it to fall out of alignment. But remember, this is a stuffed toy. So it's not going to look exactly like a pixelated computer graphic, but it will come pretty close. You really only need to work 3 or 4 stitches across the side, and then you're going to do the same thing across the front, picking up stitches about 2 rows back from the chin edge. And remember, you can sort of pull this into shape as you go. And you're just going to do this all the way around. And as you're nearing the end, you're going to put in your last couple of stitches and just secure it. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. Yep. Yep, good, good. You're going to knot your 2 ends together. So I try to bring my needle, I sort of sink my needle back up and bring it up through the same stitch that I entered the entire toy with in the first place. And then I make a quick knot in the 2 ends. And I'll just snip my yarn. So there's your knot, but because it's sort of, you brought both ends out the same hole, you can pull it back through the same hole using either your hook or your embroidery, or I should say your yarn needle. And I'm just going to tuck the whole thing back in with my hook there. And you remember to sort of squish it into shape. I mean, this is soft stuff. You're going to try and keep making it look square. So there you go. The head is now on the body. Now we're going to do the feet. So I'm going to continue with this length of yarn. I'm going to have to change it a couple times as I go. I might even do all the feet individually, just because I don't want to run out of yarn. But it's very important to make sure when you're putting on your feet that you identify the tall side. Maybe sit them all, like this is the tall side. Sit them all on their short little bums. So there's the tall side. And that's a tall side. Sit them all on the right side so that they're all sitting in the right, they're all the same height. This way when you pick them up, you know if you're sort of in the passion of sewing, you're not going to accidentally sew one on the wrong way. I'm going to flip my creeper upside down, and I'm going to start at the top left hand corner. And as you know, these are exactly half the size of the body. So 2 squished together will be the same size or the same width as the body. But what you're going to do is you're actually going to sew the corners. You're going to sew the first, like through the whole first, maybe even the first 2 stitches of this row. So like the first half of your foot. And you're going to attach it to the first 2 rows, so the edge row and maybe the first row of stitches of the body. So you want a little overlap of 2 rows with each piece, and that will put it kind of on the edge, but not so much that it's like it's rocking back and forth like a little wiggly tooth. You want it to be somewhat secure, but still sitting off the edge. I'm going to take my needle, insert it about 2 rows in from the edge of the creeper body bottom, and I'm going to bring it out right through the very edge of the creepers, the very bottom edge, and I'm going to leave a little bit of tail of yarn because I'm going to use that to sew it, sort of knot the thing up together at the end. I'm going to enter my needle about 2 rows in on the bottom, So 1, 2, there's the edge, and then one whole row. And I'm going to bring the needle out through the edge of the foot. And I am just going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew through the first or second row in on the body, out the very far edge. Then you sew, put your needle halfway up and out the back edge. And you're just going to kind of try to repeat that through those same 2 rows on each piece all the way along. And the whole thing is just to make sure that your foot sits out. See how they sit out a little bit here? They're not, they're attached to the edge, but using a whole couple rows of stitches on both pieces. And that's what lets it sit upright, or if you squish it down, you can sort of bend the feet and it'll still stay standing. It just gives it a little more support. So go ahead and attach your 4 feet. There. So I've just finished sewing on my 4 feet. And a little note, depending on how hard this toy is going to get played with, so if you're making this for a young Minecraft fan who might be kind of rough with it, you might want to put on a couple extra rows of stitching just to make sure the feet are on nice and firmly. But if this is for an older Minecraft enthusiast who's probably just going to sit it on their shelf or their bed, or maybe their couch, or in their big den, then you don't have to be quite as stringent with your stitches. But you want to make sure that when you sew them on, he stands upright. And he can look like he's walking or like he's standing still. I thought maybe if I pet him, he would stay calm. I don't know. Well, there you go, guys. That's how you make a creeper. And I recommend making several because they have a tendency to blow up. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends, especially the ones that you know might like Minecraft or anything that is Minecraft related. And especially if they know people that they want to make presents for. Please follow me on Pinterest. I'm also on Instagram, and I have an Etsy shop. I don't know if any of you have ever checked out Etsy, but it's a really cool place to go and visit, especially if you're looking for hard copies of patterns. I occasionally get asked for hard copies, and so I've started uploading some of the patterns we've made here and some other ones that we haven't up to the Etsy shop. So please check that out if you have time, and we will see you again very, very shortly. Please drop by soon because we will be stitching up more goodies, especially with the Christmas season coming. Lots of present ideas. And yeah, we will see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Bye!